Do you remember your first epic content failure? I'm not talking about the first time you missed a deadline. I'm not talking about that typo that you found in the deck as you were presenting it. I am talking about fall on your face, punch to the gut, ego-crushing failure. I do. I'm in my late 20s, and I just started at the #1 advertising agency in Phoenix. I am over the moon. I am so excited. I finally feel like I am where I need to be and where I want to be. I'm getting to work on big new clients. I'm getting to work on fun campaigns. Life is amazing. In fact, I'm getting so much praise and I'm doing so well that they offer me the chance to lead a huge new project for a new client. I am going to be the sole strategist and writer for a sports equipment manufacturer. Now, don't get me wrong, this was a huge client, and I was so grateful for the opportunity. It's just that my knowledge of pro sports really revolves around knowing where the shortest lines are at the beer carts at Chase Field in Phoenix and what's on tap at each. So, nonetheless, I am still excited, and I am ready to take on this project, and I am bound and determined to keep my winning streak intact. So, I take that project, I go back to my desk, I sit down, and nothing but writer's block. For the first time in my career, I have absolutely no clue what to write. And what does make it to the page is absolute garbage. Delete. But still, that deadline keeps coming. And my writer's block isn't going away. I don't know how I did it, but at the 11th hour, literally, I reached down and I pulled every ounce of willpower I had and every piece of creativity I had in my entire being, and I wrote that content. At the end of the day, I knew with absolute certainty that I had tried my best. I also knew that content was not my best. With a heavy heart and a stomach full of knots, I turned it in. And as I turned it in, I said to myself, it's okay. It's just round 1, right? It's a draft. You'll get their feedback. You'll work it into round 2. It's okay. Round 2, you'll knock it out of the park. No big deal. Fast forward about a week later, and I'm in my boss's office, and we're chit-chatting, and we're hanging out, and we're having a great time. We had a really great rapport, so we're joking, having a great time. And, of course, he's doing what he always does, which is multitasking. He's checking his emails, and we're chit-chatting, when all of a sudden, his happy, smiling face drops. And he goes completely silent. I think you'd better have a look at this, he says, as he turns his monitor to me. It's an email from the client. And it says, yeah, I don't know who you had write this, but this is completely wrong. This sounds like diner menu copy. Do we get a side of hash browns with this? Devastated doesn't even begin to describe what I felt in this moment. I felt like I had the wind knocked out of me. It suddenly became really, really hot in that room. And I felt like I was 2 inches tall. After several very awkward moments of silence, my boss excused me from his office, called the client, and gave the project to another writer. I never got round 2. You know, one thing I did realize, though, after I spent about a week Googling adorable exotic animals like this quokka, to try to bring myself out of my content failure funk. By the way, the quokka is adorable, right? It's native to Australia, if anybody doesn't know. If you're having a really, really terrible day, Google this little guy. He always looks like he's smiling. He has no natural predators. And also, he loves to take selfies. So seriously, if you're having a really terrible day, quokka. Promise, it'll make your day. So after I spent about a week Googling adorable exotic animals like this quokka here, trying to bring myself out of my content failure funk, I realized that I could all of a sudden very clearly see every step, as well as every misstep, I had taken on that path to failure. And two things became really clear on why I failed. One, I didn't want to let anybody down. I was brand new. I felt like I had something to prove. I was still trying to fight my way into the writer's circle, and I wanted to win, right? I shouldn't have said yes to that project because I wasn't right for it. There were other writers that would have been better, but I didn't want to say no. On the other side, I tried to be the hero. I had the worst writer's block of my entire career, but I thought if I could just muscle through it and power through, it would be fine. Unfortunately, my ego got the best of me, and that didn't happen, obviously. But the thing also that I realized is that failure helped me so very clearly see so much more than any successful project that I have ever been a part of. Now, I know that the concept of failure to success isn't new to anybody in this room, and it's not even exclusive to just content, but it's something that we don't talk about really ever. And the funny thing is have you ever noticed how easy we make content seem? Like if we just create it, it'll work and everything will be okay, right? But not necessarily. In order to really get onto the path of content wins, we need to first embrace our failures and understand why we fail so we can better position ourselves in the future. That failure moment, being said that I created diner menu copy, that has stuck with me for the rest of my entire career. And now I know to never put myself in that same position again. It helps me lead to better paths to success. So we need to start embracing these failures, and we need to start understanding how to fail productively. And when we do that, we're going to win. And we're going to talk about how to do that today. But first, before we do, we need to address the fact that as content marketers, we have an intense fear of failure. And I think you'll agree because this room is full. So obviously, we're interested in this topic. But marketers in general have a very intense fear of failure. It's just not something we talk about. It's not something we highlight. It's not something that we really like to bring up. We will happily get up and we'll talk all day long about our case studies and our successes and all of these amazing campaigns. We've even received frameworks here at this conference for how to create more successful content. On the surface, everything is A-okay. Now, not to diminish anybody, there are definitely some people having a lot of success with content. A lot of people in here are having success with content. It's not that we're failing completely. It's just that we're not talking about our failures as much as we should. Everybody who won an award last night and everybody who was nominated is absolutely deserving of those rewards. That's not what this session is about. What this session is helping everybody bring it up a level and find that path to success through our failures. Now, the reason why this piqued my curiosity in the first place is because, one, I've been through it personally and firsthand. And talking in very small circles and talking one-on-one, other people have as well. This is not an anomaly. This is something that is widespread. And furthermore, we have data to back this up as well. I know everybody in here is familiar with this report. If you're not, it's Content Marketing Institute's annual Benchmarks, Budgets, and Trends report. Now, this is the B2C report that we're going to be going through on some numbers. For those of you in the room who are B2B, just know that the numbers are very, very close. So these numbers that we're going to go through still apply to everybody in this room. So we have actual data to back that so many of us are failing or so many of us are experiencing struggles every single day. And let's talk through some of those data points right now. So every year this report is published, and the story is pretty much the same. It doesn't really change. What we find is that pretty much everybody is doing content marketing, approximately 86% on the B2C side. On the B2B side, it's actually higher. It's around 91 or 92%. So everybody's doing content marketing in some way, shape, or form. Over the next 12 months, People have actually indicated that they are going to be investing more. About 37% said that they were actually going to put more into content over the next 12 months, right? So we're doing content marketing, and most of us plan on doing more. Some of us plan on doing more. What do you think the percent is of those who are doing content marketing rated their efforts on content as extremely successful? Any guesses? Whoa. 5% rated their efforts as extremely successful. Oh, that's a different story than what we're getting up and talking about. Now, there were people who indicated that their content was mildly successful, but extremely successful. Think about that. Like an actual success, 5%. That is harsh. And in addition, when they polled other people as well, only 38% had a documented content strategy. So the story basically every year that I look at this report is we're doing content marketing, we're doing a ton of it, we're going to be doing even more, we're going to be putting even more budget into it, but we don't really have a plan on how to do it, and we don't actually know or think it's really that effective. This is why we need to talk about our content failures, is because of that 5%, because we are currently experiencing failure, we're just not talking about it. So, if there are so many of us out there who are looking to find that path to success, why aren't we sharing more of what doesn't work so we do know what does work? Well, that's because there is an intense psychological stigma around failure. Think about it. Going to school, especially here in America, what was our grading system? A to F for failure. We've literally been trained our entire lives to avoid failure at all costs. If you're failing, you are not doing what you're supposed to do. That is bad. You need to go for an A every single time, right? We literally train ourselves from a very young age to avoid failure. The other thing is we are very uncomfortable with our own failures. It makes us do things to ourselves, and it gets in our head, and it wedges in there, and it makes us doubt everything about ourselves, right? When we fail, when we don't succeed, we think horrible things. We think things like, what are people thinking of me? Maybe I'm not even capable, right? Am I even cut out for this? When that client said I wrote diner menu copy, I doubted every single part of my ability, all of my success up to that point, any piece of praise I had ever been given, and it made me doubt myself for months. It was ego crushing. And this happens all the time. Even if we're comfortable with our own failures, what about our teams, right? When our teams fail, are we setting them up to embrace that and to understand how to correct that? Or if our teams fail, do we blame ourselves, right? I know when I was a manager and my team would fail, I would think things like, oh my God, did I not guide them enough? Did I not give them enough instruction? What is the CEO going to think when he hears about this, right? We have this tendency to internalize these failures as just our own and that it's going to be the end of us. But it doesn't have to be that way. So what I want to talk to you about today is what I've dubbed the Content Marketing Fail Fast Framework. Over the years, I've been able to adopt a couple of coping mechanisms and some exercises that have really helped me through a lot of failure and really helped me get through those bumps in the road with various teams and various clients. And there's going to be 3 pieces to this framework today. And with each piece, I'm going to end it with an exercise that is so easy and so quick to do, you could literally do them on a piece of paper right after the session ends. Now, I can't guarantee that this framework is going to prevent mistakes from happening or prevent failures from happening, but it will hopefully help everybody fail a little bit faster and become a little bit more productive and embrace it and get back onto the path to success faster. All right, so is everybody ready to dive into the framework? Okay. Piece number 1, ask why. Such a simple piece of the framework, right? A little more difficult than it sounds sometimes. I first learned the power of why from this book, Content Strategy for the Web by Christina Halverson. It's actually in the introduction, and she talks about the power of asking why, right? Even just sitting down and being asked to do something, question, just say why. Not in an accusatory way, but in a powerful, digging deeper kind of a way. You'll have better conversations. For those of you who are not familiar with this, maybe you're familiar with Simon Sinek, start with why, right? The entire concept that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Why is an incredibly powerful tool that we are just not accessing and utilizing enough. Why has actually become one of my favorite non-4-letter words over the years, because it really gets everybody to stop, take a quick second, and think a little bit more critically about what we're doing, how, and why. Now, oftentimes when I work with clients, many of them don't even know why they're doing content in the first place. They say things to me like, well, because we need to show our competitive advantage. And I say, okay, let's take a quick step back. Why do you need to show your competitive advantage? Like, what about it isn't coming through today? Why? And they'll, kind of sit there and think for a second and ponder why. And they'll come back usually with something like, well, because our competitors are outperforming us. Okay, that's valid, but that's not really tangible, right? This is just sort of more of the same. We still don't really know why we're doing anything. So I ask them again. Say, well, why? Why are your competitors outperforming you? And they say something like, well, because they have better brand recognition, but we can actually walk the walk, right? So digging deeper, asking why. That's where you get to those aha moments. That's where you start to say, this is why we're doing what we do. This is why we are actually even putting effort into this in the first place. And if you just keep digging and asking why, you will get deeper and deeper into that onion, and you will figure out exactly why you should be doing what you're doing.